interesting thing, panelists, we already had about 3 questions before the program started. I got lots of emails coming in about like 3 of them, serious questions, heavy questions like this. So I will see if I can move them to the moderator when it's time, so that at least he can read them out. Without further ado, I will hand over to Mr. Akiemi, who is going to moderate. Welcome everyone once again and enjoy the session. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank the organizers of this event, Power Hub, Electricity Hub. It's been a good run. This is the 49th edition. And I think like wine is getting better and better. I think not because I'm on this this particular edition, but I think this is a power-packed edition. And I think the amount of brains that we have in the panelists today, I think we might just hit the home run for Nigeria. Without further ado, I'll just go on to introduce the panelists. Welcome everybody once again. Like I said, we have a star-studded cast for us today. We're representing the Minister of Power, Engineer Abba Liu. He's the Secretary of the Presidential Power Initiative Implementation Committee, and also the Special Advisor to the Minister of Power. Sir, could you say hello to the audience?
Hi, hello. Just a point of correction. I'm not engineer. I'm just Abba Liu.
Okay, Abba Liu.
Yeah, yes.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you. We have Onyechi Tifase. She's the Managing Director for Siemens Energy Nigeria. Onyechi, could you please say hello to everyone?
Hello, everyone. Onyechi Tifase. Pleasure to be here.
From the government side again, we have representing the DG of BPE, Mr. Yunana Jackdel Malo. He's the Director of the Energy Department and the Head of the Project Management Unit for the PPI for the BPE. Please say hello to everyone, sir.
Hello, good evening. Thank you. Just call me Malo.
Malo for short. Thank you, sir. And last but not the least, we have the acting CEO of the Ikeja Electricity Distribution Company, Folake Soweto. Please say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Folake Soweto. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A star-studded cast. I'm excited about today, really excited. Without further ado, I'm going to go in and ask the panelists, starting from our private sector folk, to make the opening remarks. And I'm going to start from Soweto, please.
All right. Good afternoon once again. And thank you very much for inviting me to participate, on this panel. Hello to my fellow panelists as well. As earlier introduced, my name is Folake Soweto, and I am the acting CEO of Ikeja Electric. Ikeja Electric happens to be the largest electricity distribution network in Nigeria. We are a major stakeholder within the power sector, and we account for the offtake of about 15% of the nation's daily power generated. So what is really our current reality, and what are the facts? Now, first of all, energy flows from the generating companies, the GENCOs, and it flows to the customers, while revenue flows in the reverse order. We are the last mile of the energy supply to the customer. We're also the ones that are the collectors for the industry. So the value chain depends on us, on the money that we collect from our customers. And it's only a fraction of what we collect that we keep to run our operations on a daily basis. A substantial part of what we collect is remitted to the value chain. The present tariff that is charged does not really cover the cumulative cost of getting energy to customers along this value chain I just mentioned. The present tariff being charged, obviously, also does not put into consideration some of the issues that I'll talk about later on. Metering is a major issue in the distribution space, and despite the meter asset provider scheme, which is supposed to help close that gap, we still have about 50% of our retail customers are currently unmetered. And of course, that has a significant impact, on collection losses, which obviously affects the value chain. The debt owed to the market participants due to this poor payment, from MDAs, from other participants as well, is also very significant. This burden continues to grow, and it contributes significantly to the collection losses. Notwithstanding the challenges over the years that Ikeja Electric has, definitely made a significant progress towards trying to improve not only the cost, the capacity, but the quality of service that we provide to our customers. And I'll just go through some of the things that we have done. We've had about 24% increase in energy uptake, and we spent a sizable amount for both infrastructure and technological upgrades across our network. We've invested in geographical information system, which has facilitated major inroads into proper customer enumeration, and of course, mapping of our assets. We've replaced and upgraded obsolete panels and upgraded substations. We've invested in tools and equipment that have resulted in improvement of high voltage and low voltage faults, which enables us to clear some of those faults within 8 hours. So we moved from improving our performance from 30% to 90% per month. We've automated a lot of our critical business processes to help us be more efficient and make our customers be able to access us easily. One of the things that I'm very excited about that we've done in Ikeja Electric is we've introduced the bilateral power scheme. And this is a major pioneer initiative where we've hosted customers such as estates, and we've received guaranteed of about minimum of 20 hours and quality service, which is based on service level agreements. Despite these inroads, we cannot gloss over the fact that the current availability of power in Nigeria is a significant bottleneck for broad economic growth. And of course, in the course of our discussion today, we'll see why that is key. We recognize that the abundant availability of power is a prerequisite for economic development. And that is why everybody's taking it serious, from the federal government to the end user. And with the potential to have a multiplier effect, obviously, on the economic growth. A larger section of the distribution infrastructure across the country, things like the lines, our transformers and stuff, are quite obsolete, and of course, replacement. This state of distribution infrastructure obviously negatively impacts the ability of discos to distribute energy to our customers. And of course, it also increases technical losses. With the tariff remaining unreflective of cost of the energy that we're distributing, it's very difficult for the discos to efficiently fund operations and even upgrade some of the distribution infrastructure. Not talk of providing even meters to kind of sort out the major issues of collection. Now, to address this gap that I just mentioned and to overcome the challenges that is prevalent in the sector, we need to work on developing new
a lot of questions where you can clarify.
Enhancing capabilities across the value chain. And that is what the PPI, this is the Presidential Power Initiative, seeks to address. If we remove the severe bottlenecks within the transmission and distribution grid, it will allow for free flow of electricity. This plan will seek to ensure the industry infrastructure development.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, can you hear me?
You can hear me?
Up now because we have like a bunch of questions for you, and you're already answering my questions.
Oh, sorry, I'm already answering your questions. All right, so I'm just going to end here. The essence of me just going into that is just to show how critical the value chain is to us achieving the objective, and the PPI will help ensure we achieve that objective. Thank you very much.
Next, we go to my brother Malo from BP. Malo, I don't know what you know. I'm actually an alumni of BP, so you're my brother from another mother. So Please, your opening remarks, sir.
Thank you very much. All of us know that investments in the power sector have been very erratic. In fact, for the life of this nation, if you look at the trajectory of investments into the power sector, there was a time when completely there was no investment. And all that we had were the kind of wires that had been put on, and they're still providing services up to this time. This lack of investment over a very long period of time meant that infrastructure and the systems that were supposed to deliver power to the Nigerian people was not in good shape at all. This situation persisted until 1999 when we started having some semblance of investments, but they were not as deep as we would want them to be. And it was in this condition that the power sector was privatized, and we expected some very quick turnaround with regards to investments in the sector. However, the conditions that will have made for such were not readily available. And as we operated the system over time, we discovered that there was a need for a major intervention. And this intervention had to address the value chain completely with regards to the infrastructure that would make sure that people who needed power could get power. And that was what happened when our president visited with the German chancellor and requested their help in order to fix the infrastructure requirement. And in this case, the areas that require serious attention have to do with the distribution segment, the transmission segment, and to some extent, some level of help with regards to generation. But the initial area that required much attention has to do with the distribution and the transmission. And another area that is also very critical, the interface between the discos and the transmission. Then Siemens was asked to come in and help with this particular program in order to create the people efficiently. The program is supposed to be end-to-end, is supposed to provide every requirement that will make the system very efficient. And it has been structured in such a way that it is in phases, starting with the low-hanging fruits and those ones that will have the maximum impact within a short period of time in phase one. Then phase two, taking on those ones that are a little bit difficult, but requiring more detailed analysis and implementation. And then phase three will take us to the level where hopefully we will have the takeoff stage where Nigeria will indeed be welcomed into the Committee of Nations as we deliver a minimum of 25 to Nigerians. I think in a nutshell, that will be my opening remark.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Next, we're going to go to Mr. Liu, representative of the Minister of Power. So, sir, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Temi. First of all, my name is Abba Liu, an SA to the Honorable Minister of Power, and at the same time, Secretary to the Project Implementation Office of the Presidential Power Initiative Office. Now, I'm here representing, not on my capacity, but representing the Honorable Minister. Now, as an opening remark, what the Honorable Minister wants to make it clear to the audience is the fact that whenever it comes to power sector, there are a lot of discussion, and most of these discussions are around the challenges affecting the power sector. The two panelists' opening remarks had alluded to that. Issues around infrastructure, issue around investment, and as time goes on, we'll talk about issue around policy, issue around implementation, and many other issues. Now, what the minister did in the first year as a Minister of Power is to come up with a clear roadmap. Now, we know we have a lot of issues within the power sector. Now, what exactly are we doing? What should be the solution going forward? What should the minister focus or the ministry focus in terms of addressing or taking this sector forward? And he now came up with a 5 clear point agenda. And the first is alignment of infrastructure along the electricity value chain. And the main point of this discussion is around the Presidential Power Initiative, which basically the objective of that is creating that alignment along the electricity value chain. So the minister prioritized that as one of the key focus area of his administration. And under this, currently the minister is driving the Presidential Power Initiative as one of the key things that will lead to this alignment. Apart from that, we are also under the Transmission Company of Nigeria, we are implementing the Transmission Expansion Rehabilitation Program. So these are kind of the projects that is specifically focusing to make way to create this alignment of infrastructure along the electricity value chain. Now, the second point of his focus is to say that, okay, apart from the infrastructure, there are other things, more especially within the electricity market. We are undergoing reform and the market is on transition. Now, we can't just focus on the infrastructure without other sub-elements of the electricity market. And he now said that the second point of concern is to how do we make this market transparent and also efficient. And under this key focus area, he's now looking at the liquidity issues, the reform issues, even in terms of how do we make certain agreements that already the market have assumed? How do we kind of unbundle them and make them much more realistic to the present reality of the electricity market? So that's the second point of his blueprint. Now, the third level of it is also to say that, okay, we need to also plan with the end in mind, not focusing on addressing the immediate issues without looking at what may come up tomorrow, what may come in the next 5 years, right? So he now said that there is also need to now complete the legacy projects that the ministry had already started. And this specifically focused in terms of enhancing the generation capacity of the country. So not really blindsided on how do we now enhance the transmission and distribution. And you now wake up, you have the capacity to maybe transmit or distribute more than what you have at the generation segment of the market. So he now said that, and also noting that some of these generation projects have a very long gestation period. So as we are working on this, let's not forget also on the need to enhance that generation component of the value chain. So he now said that those projects, the Mambila, the Zingeru, the Dadinkowa, the Kashimbila, all those projects also are still going to be focused on to ensure completion within a stipulated period of time. Then the third area of his focus is increasing energy access. As we all know, based on the number, there are various numbers saying that almost 80 million Nigerians are not even served, or they are underserved with electricity. Now, so let's not also completely be subsumed with the on-grid electricity services. How about the off-grid? So he now said that, so there is a component of that I'm going to focus in terms of driving this energy access more, especially to those that are not served completely. And under this, in fact, under the economic sustainability plan, we have succeeded in making it as a component of the economic sustainability plan to provide 5 million solar home system and mini grid to Nigerians. And this is something also that we are aggressively driving to see it being concluded or being implemented. Then the fourth thing that he's, or the fifth one that he's focusing on, it's also in terms of policy and governance and coordination. One of the key challenges to him in the power sector is the fact that there's no clear coordination. So there are various actors. Almost everybody is a power expert. And there is no clear point of concern, despite the fact that the EPSA Act has clearly delineated roles and responsibility among key arms and stakeholders within the market. But you find a situation whereby there is everybody is doing everybody's job and nobody is doing anybody's job. So he now said that he wants to focus in terms of creating a clear single point of policy direction and coordination within the sector. And that means that every stakeholder is playing the role assigned to that by his or her mandate. So these are the five key areas that the minister is focusing on as his roadmap. And this is my opening remark. Thank you, Tim.
Finally, last but not the least, we go to Oyeche. You've heard all the other panelists. Wow, we already have 209 participants, 210, 211. If you're just joining us, welcome to the 49th edition of the Electricity Hub. We're discussing the Siemens deal, Oyeche is the Managing Director of Siemens Nigeria, and she'll be giving us an overview, our opening remarks for this. Oyeche, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, okay. It's, as I said before, it's really such a pleasure to be here. I think it's about time that we brought like-minded individuals together to start a dialogue about how to bring our country forward. And let me be clear, this deal is not the Siemens deal. The deal does not belong to Siemens. It's for Nigerians. And it's only called the Presidential Power Initiative because it has the mark, the brand of the president on it. The vice president oversees this project and makes sure he can remove any roadblocks to ensuring its success. And that is why it's called the Presidential Power Initiative. So it's a power initiative for Nigerians, overseen and championed by the president himself, with the Minister of Power being his custodian of the project. I must say that as a Nigerian, everyone introduced themselves and I introduced myself as a proud Nigerian. And the fact that Nigeria didn't have electricity has been a concern to every single Nigerian. And even young children will tell you, it causes so much pain and heartache. I don't want to repeat what my fellow panelists have said. I think they spoke beautifully. Folake, thank you so much for speaking about the infrastructure challenges and from the viewpoint of the DISCOs, also referencing the GENCOs. Mr. Malo spoke about the history of the power sector, how it came to be privatized, and how so far we've come together to develop the Presidential Power Initiative. And Mr. Abba Aliyu gave us very, very clear, detailed overview of the Minister of Power's 5-point agenda, which really ties everything together. And where Siemens plays a role is in supporting all these organizations, the DISCOs, the GENCOs, the regulator, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, the Bureau of Public Enterprises as a critical shareholder in the sector, working with the presidency to put together a program that could transform Nigeria's dreams into reality. And I must say that's very critical because even now people don't believe in this dream. They still see it as a dream and something that is wishful thinking and virtual, an idea and a concept. But it took almost 2 years for us to come to prepare to get to this stage where we're now able to engage and speak about an actual project that will solve all the issues Mr. Aliyu, Malo, and Folake have described across the entire value chain. And these issues have inhibited Nigeria's economic development. They've barred or limited the volume of FDI being injected into the country. They've created a non-competitive economic landscape for Nigeria. Many Nigerians are losing hope and leaving the country Unfortunately, also industries and companies are doing the same. And what I personally, as the CEO of Siemens, have been very passionate about this topic for many years. And even prior to the visit of the German Chancellor and the CEO of Siemens, Joe Kaiser, to Nigeria, I remember meeting with various power sector stakeholders to try to promote this sort of concept. And as you'll have it, in August of 2018, we had the visit of the German Chancellor, August, sorry. She came with also on her delegation was the CEO of Siemens. And he spoke about what we'd achieved in Egypt, which is extremely impressive. 14.4 gigawatts of electricity under 27 and a half months. And also ramping up generation capacity in Egypt, but also extending it into transmission. And he spoke about the value we created also with education and other sustainability contributions. And the president there was sold and asked us to engage further. And since then, we've been working 2 years very closely with all stakeholders to come up with this concept. I think in about a year, we understood very well what the problems are in Nigeria. It's not the lack of capacity, it's the skills, it's not the lack of human capacity or the lack of resources or the lack of even power, because here we're generating 3.5 or delivering operational capacity to end users of about 3.5 gigawatts of electricity, 3,500 megawatts. Meanwhile, we have about 7 to 8 stranded additional 3,500 in the grid. So it's not about even lack of capacity, it's about bringing everything in together, tying it into a concrete and integrated program that is competitive, it is transparent, it is efficient, and it is detailed in nature. So leaving no points out. And I think that's the value we bring as Siemens, is the fact that Siemens has been operating for almost 200 years. We have the know-how, we have the experience. We're doing this same sort of project in Iraq as well. We've operated in high-risk regions. So Nigeria is, for us, not an unfamiliar region. We've been 50 years in Nigeria. So even this year, we'll turn 50, exactly 50 years in Nigeria. We have the know-how, the capacity, but we also understand how power systems work. And our purpose as Siemens is we energize society. That is our purpose. Our vision is to be able to deliver electricity for all at a competitive, reliable, efficient electricity and affordable. And so this brought us together to sit with all stakeholders. I remember Mr. Malu was there from the very beginning. Mr. Abba Aliyu has become an even more critical stakeholder. He doesn't let us rest since engaging with him more recently. And for like I know, you spoke about Ikeja's discourse contribution, so critical to the success of this project. Sitting down with all these stakeholders and trying to identify what the problems are and realizing that we needed to start all the way from distribution. This wasn't a situation as they had in Egypt. Resolve the gaps in distribution, transmission, generation, even looking at the automation and control systems, the protection and control of the grid, looking at the metering, how do we ensure we can achieve efficient metering and therefore recover maximum revenue for all investors across that value chain, and thereby attract other investors to come in, not only directly into the power sector, but into other sectors that are enabled by electricity, industries, schools, hospitals. All those will thrive with stable electricity. And we know the cost of doing business in Nigeria as well. So for small businesses, has massive implications. So it's with all passion, sincerity, humility that we came into this project, trying to learn and understand what the issues were. And what we've done is we've developed a very integrated, very sustainable path to ensuring, as Mr. Malu said, in 3 phases, but even prior to entering into those 3 phases, our initial works will be about developing the engineering and design, training people on how to build power systems, power networks with the right software. Also developing the standard template for the transmission, the connections, the interconnections, and the substations, the geography, the mapping, and the plan, the long-term plan. Where do we really want to grow? We have all the discos who've done their performance improvement plans. What are the implications for the entire sector? How do they?
Wait, you have to wind up. You're already answering all my questions.
I'll answer them again, Tope. So, but really, maybe to round up and say, yeah, it's really exciting to be here to talk about this. I'm very passionate again, and really looking forward to hearing also the questions from the audience. Pleasure. Thank you.
delighted to hear the integrated nature of your approach, which is very critical for success in Nigeria. I'm going to go into the moderated session now. We're going to have a barrage of about 15 to 17 questions for all the panelists. I hope you've done some press ups this morning. So what I would like is maximum a 90-second answer to the questions. So I want to give a lot of time for people to actually ask specific questions so that they can get clarity on the project. I'm going to start with Abba. We've heard Moichi talk about the fact that this is not the Siemens deal, but the Presidential Power Initiative for Nigerians. The first question I have for you is, what sustainability measures are in place to ensure that the project does not stop beyond the current presidential dispensation? 90 seconds. What can we do to ensure that if Buhari leaves, the deal does not die? Like you said, it's presidential, it's the VPs behind it, but you know the administration is limited. So what do we do? What can we put in place to ensure that this is sustainable and goes beyond this?
Thank you, Temi. So when you need thing with the Presidential Power Initiative, or popularly called as Siemens project, is from the design perspective. The project was designed with the end in mind, taking into consideration the uniqueness and the political climate of the country. So from the design process, a clear governance structure was put in place, and that is to have an SPV. That SPV would serve, for example, as the board of the implementation framework. So, and it's also a way of institutionalizing the project as an institution rather than align it with the political climate. So that board, in the books of the board, all the contingent liabilities that will come as a result of this project will be in the books of that board. And just recently, Mr. President has approved the board that has a complex and variety of stakeholders, including the chair with the Minister of Finance as the chair, Minister of Power, Minister of Works and Housing, Justice, Science and Technology, the MD of TCN are all part of that SPV board. And apart from that SPV board, there is a project implementation unit or project management office that is made of just pure technocrats that are to now work hand in hand with Siemens in terms of implementation of that project. Now, so to answer your question, the first thing that we ensure that will create this sustainability of this project is institutionalizing a clear, transparent corporate governance that is not only comfortable for the implementation of the project, but even outside the private sector, the distribution companies, they will now be comfortable to now have discussion, investment discussion with this kind of governance framework that we put in place. And I also believe another thing that will create this sustainability is Nigerians will definitely, at the end of the day, will take ownership of this project. Onyechi has talked about the success they recorded in Egypt and what they are recording in Iraq. Once this project starts to deliver on the expected output, Nigerians will ensure the sustainability of this project. Thank you.
I think there's nothing that can promote sustainability than results. But I also understand the SPV structure you were describing. My next question is for Marlon. My question is saying that seeing that PPI is occurring in a privatized industry, which of the stakeholders will take ownership of new assets, especially within disco franchise areas? We are creating new assets now. Who's going to take ownership of these assets? And how would that work?
Thank you once more for that question. And the explanation by Abba actually was succinct, given that there's a need for an institutional framework that will make sure that the program is sustainable. That SPV has been incorporated. It will operate under CAMA. and is to ensure that whatever we are doing is in line with the laws of the land. And I think that will give it the life that it requires. Just like he said, the delivery of the program will be to those who need it most. And in this case, both the discos and the transmission company will need these particular facilities very seriously. And that is why they have been part and parcel of the process of actually identifying everything that needs to be done with regards to each segment. They will take ownership of it and they will utilize it. They will use it to generate the resources that will be required to pay back the facility that is going to be used to run this program. So essentially, the discourse will enter into a contract with the SPV that will give them access to the facilities as they are delivered. They will utilize the facility to generate the necessary revenue, of course, delivering service to the people, generate the revenue that will be used to pay back for the facility that is gotten. It is a fantastic arrangement that is done in such a way that those who will use the facilities know exactly what is going into their franchise area. And those who will also get the service will see the result of what has been put in the franchise area. And that is why the program is made in such a way that it will, from the very beginning, begin to deliver on its promises. One of the key aspects of the project that we need to bring out that will be done through this program is the information gathering and the gathering and collation, so that you can now plan properly for the development of the sector. Siemens is going to put the kind of information gathering facility that will make sure that every consumer in this nation can be, will be directly linked to this platform, so that we will know what you are consuming and what you are not consuming. In that case, it will become very easy for our planners to plan for development. So we are not only solving the immediate problem, we are also planning to take care of future developments, future needs, through correct information that will be gathered and utilized.
The only thing I worry about with this explanation is I don't know how you're going to explain this structure to the layman on the road. I think the only explanation we can give them is just to start delivering power. This SPV structure may be very difficult to explain to people on the road. My next question will go to Folake. This project, this PPI, may seem like a infringement on either to privatized or commercialized entities. How does the PPI align with the DISCO's PIPs or your former PIPs before this program? Does this align with what you are planning to do before? How does this work with you?
Sorry.
Thank you.
I didn't realize. Okay, apologies for that. The performance improvement plan that the DISCOs have been working on obviously was something that is based on the NEC tariff order. So the plan is to move or transit from the current MITO system or regime that we have to a service reflective system. And for you to be able to do that, it's critical that you have a clear performance improvement plan that aligns with the new tariff structure that will be given to the customers. You remember I spoke about the bilateral scheme that Ikeja is doing. So the customers are paying a tariff that kind of reflects the service that they're getting. And there is also SLAs that you put in place, and the customers can hold you to account to what you're supposed to deliver. So the order obviously anticipates that customer tariffs should recognize the service levels, like I mentioned, and of course, customers pay as the service improves. That's what the PIP does. Our performance improvement plan therefore forms the basis for IE's funding requirement for the performance, the PPI, which is what the presidential power initiative is all about. The alignment here is that by implementing the PPI initiatives, we achieve a significant part of our own PIP, not just Ikeja, all the discos, because it's aligned. Because what the PPI is trying to achieve is the same thing that PIP, that each of the discos have put together, is also geared to achieve. However, there are factors other than the PPIs that impact our ability to meet our PIPs. The sector is key. It's important that the sector ensures that we're in a cost reflective tariff, that covers the minimum cost of even delivering the kilowatt power to the customer. Is very key. The sector also needs to ride on the back of realistic ATC&C baselines for those that are not in the sector. So it's aggregate technical, commercial, and collection losses. Very key that you have realistic baselines and, of course, achievable loss reduction targets that must be set for all the discos. Other segments of the power sector value chain also need to play their part in ensuring that we meet with these performance improvement plans. The generation capacity must be improved and reliable. It's very key that there is reliable provision of power at all times. The PIP that the discos have put together can only work if, of course, the value chain works. So the gas issues that also is affecting plants is very key to be resolved as well. And I believe that the PPI will also resolve that issue. So what I'm trying to say, there is alignment. We're all trying to achieve the same objective. What we just need to do is make sure that all the stakeholders are discussing and are all on the same page, and everybody understands the pain points of everyone on the value chain.
Thank you so much, Nadia. So basically what you're saying is that your PPIs will be, your PIPs will be accelerated by this program.
Yeah.
Excellent. My next question is for Onyeche.
Yes.
I saw that there won't be absolute metering. So how do you plan to secure the revenue streams in the market without this absolute consumer metering? Is it possible to do that? And what are your plans concerning that?
Thanks again, Tokwe. When it comes to every aspect of this program, let's be very clear. It requires, and I think Falake hinted at that, it requires the participation of various stakeholders. It requires NERC to have the right regulations, to create the right market frameworks. It requires us to come in with our own technology. So we see ourselves as a trusted partner. It requires the discos to be able to operate and maintain their systems effectively. It requires third parties. So there's so much at stake, and there's so many others that make this entire thing work. But where our own major contribution is that we bring the technology. So we have an advanced revenue metering system that is based on our energy IP system, which is a cloud-based technology that allows us to manage and monitor millions of meters that will be installed across the country. And these eventually we hope to transition to smart meters technology, but we know at the moment they're prepaid technologies. So we have smart vending platforms for collecting data and information. And Mr. Malu, thank you. Data is one of the key factors for the success of this project. So ensuring the right level of information is collected to be able to reconcile payments to and from the customers and the investors in that value chain. So to put it in simple words, this model is connected to every meter in the country. It takes information. It ensures that you can't tamper even with that meter because it is based on the information it collects is assessed almost real time. So when there are interventions that are, or false interventions, it's able to switch off that meter and therefore protect it from tampering. And that's at the consumer end. It also allows the consumer to be able to assess the electricity they're consuming, but also to pay on time, to receive quality electricity. And then the discos are able then to reconcile their payments, the payments back to the transmission and generation companies or to other investors along the value chain through the same system. So the value that we're bringing is we've done so much due diligence that we've created sufficient transparency to identify what kind of technologies we need to deploy. When is the right time to bring in smart meters? How do we collaborate with the meter asset providers? Because they also play a very significant role in making sure the system I've described works. And then for the smart meter technology, or the meters that we need today, the government is also saying, let's supply those hardware as well, so that when we don't just have this cloud-based vending platform, we also have actual meters that are measuring power consumed, and also ensuring that the consumers can maximize their benefits. But then also we have NERC that is putting in the right regulations, as Folake said, to ensure that the tariffs are competitive, cost reflective. And ultimately what we're trying to do with the system is to ensure we make the maximum amount of revenues for the discos are collecting the maximum amount of revenues, reducing the ATC and C losses to the minimum possible. Our hope is that within a couple of years, we start to move towards single-digit ATC and C losses across all discos, thereby reducing loss-making. What you see now is discos with over 50% of ATC and C losses across the value chain, and ensuring that we can maximize income for investors in the power sector, and also for the ensure affordable electricity for all. Now, this sounds a bit complicated, because then the next question is, what about those that live below the poverty line? How, and there, I think the government has a multi-pronged program, and that's where, as Abba said, there's a five-pronged program whereby there are other models as well being integrated into the PPI, where for off-grid solutions, there are also home-based solar systems being supplied. There's also more competitive rates being deployed for all strata of consumers. So in general, I think what we're doing here ensures there's transparency, maximum profitability, maximum revenue collections, and most importantly, everything is done on an automated system. There's minimal human interference, and we will be training people on this technology, on the know-how. There will be central viewing from the regulator, and all stakeholders will have that transparency on how does it integrate from generation, transmission to distribution.
This all sounds very good. I'm going to a question now. We've all been in Nigeria for a long time, and we've had a target of 40,000 megawatts by year end, 100,000 megawatts by next week. Power will be fixed in 6 months. So my question to you, we have this not too aggressive, but still aggressive milestones. How feasible are these milestones? And how are you sure that we can meet them in this? This is not the first time we're setting goals. Abba, my question is to you, representing the minister. So can you give us assurance? And again, also understanding that for all Nigerians, all this English you are speaking, only holds water if there is power at the end of the day. So what are your thoughts?
Thank you very much. One thing we want to make clear is that we understand that this project is a complex engineering project, so there is no two way about it. Just recently, I think the Twitter handle of the Honorable Minister tweeted some details in which even the number of sites where this project will be implemented were identified, and we're talking about over 2,000 sites, I think. So we understand how complex it is. Now, but what makes us very confident and sure that we'll meet this timeline is based on a number of things. One, Onyechi has mentioned it, the company that has been mandated to deliver on this project. Now, this is a company with history, not only history, but with track record of history, with track record of implementing the same kind of a project in a much more difficult area. That is one key thing to understand. The second thing is also the way the project is being structured. Now, when you have the entire project component of the project, Siemens is accountable, is responsible for it, for the delivery and for the achievement of target goals. So when you look at how it's been structured, not in such a way whereby you have multiple players all being drawn and nobody in the end is accountable for anything. So there's that structural level of how the project is structured is another thing that is giving us the confidence that we will definitely do it. Then thirdly is also, I keep talking about planning with the end in mind. There's the pre-engineering component, which the federal government, the FEC had approved that Siemens will comment, is designed in such a way that we get the details of the scope of the project. And not only the scope, but to a very much more detail apart from the studies that have been conducted. So that will also give us that leverage of saying that let's focus on the quick wins to be able to deliver what we are marked to deliver by 2021 and 2023 and 2025. So that flexibility of saying that starting with what will start to yield the result that will enable even Nigeria start to feel the impact of the project and on the project is also another thing that will give us the confidence of doing it. Then lastly is also to look at what we have already achieved within the time frame when this thing has been done. There were a lot of studies that have been done, a lot of engagement that have been done with various stakeholders. Beyond that, we secured the approval and the SPV, Mr. Malo has mentioned it has been approved and has been set up. We have gotten the approval for the pre-engineering and the pre-engineering work will soon start. So there are a lot of things that gives us that confidence of achieving within the stipulated time frame. Thank you, Tim.
Fantastic. I like the idea that you say the crux of the implementation is in the hands of Siemens. But you see, this cannot be implemented without the government side of it. And you know, it's like, so for a person to be an athlete to run, it needs two legs. And if one leg is muscular and running very fast, the other leg has to keep up, if you understand my adage. Okay, so this is sounding better and better, but my next question is for Malu, and it is simple. How is the FG going to fund this thing? Where is the money coming?
Very good, very good. You know, as an economist, Tokwe, this is one project. I'm happy to say financing it with somebody else's money is a wise decision. True loan, a larger portion of it true loan. Of course, there is a small component that is coming as the counterpart fund from the federal government, but a larger chunk of the resources will be coming from the German banks. And it is structured in such a way that from the government side, Ministry of Finance will be guaranteeing it. From the German side, there is the Euler Hemmers that will be providing some comfort to the banks in Germany in order to provide the resources. So this project is going to be financed through loan, and it is the kind of loan that will service itself. You can see very clearly that the private sector arrangement is what largely has been put in place to implement with very little interference from the public sector. The SPV, the implementation committee, and those who are supposed to ensure that these things are being done, including those who will be monitoring, are largely people who do not have too much connection with government. But the process allows Siemens to, seamlessly implement the program in such a way that there is no break at all. So at the end of the day, the project is implemented, the service is provided to the people, the payment system is structured in such a way that the system returns the revenue that enables the payment to be made without any problem. This is the kind of financing that definitely, if this country were to continue to utilize, we should be happy to have government go into. And it is almost like a foolproof system with guarantees from Siemens that this program will be implemented. And just like Abba said, we have seen it done in other places, and we have borrowed that template. We are using it, taking into consideration the mistakes of those places in order not to run into this, the same mistake here. And definitely, government has got into this project knowing exactly that it will add serious value to our country. Thank you, Tokwe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So in other words, they're saying that the facility is self-regulating. Interesting. We will see. Oyechi, I'm coming back to you. You said something about your experience working in a more difficult environment. You said Egypt is more difficult. And that is up for argument too. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in Nigeria for a while. I argue that Egypt may not be that much more difficult. So my question for you is, what lessons has Siemens learned in Egypt that are applicable to Nigeria? And what differences have you seen? What do you think are the more challenging facts about Nigeria that have kept you up at night?
Thank you, Tokwe. It's not just Egypt. I mean, we're in almost every country in the world as Siemens. So we have experience from similar climates. We're doing a similar project, as I said, in Iraq. We're exploring similar projects in South America, in Asia. So it's not about saying one country is worse than the other. Every country has its own challenges. I mean, look at the US and some parts of Europe now where we thought certain things couldn't happen. And look at the countries that are suffering most from Corona. There's no distinction between your country is better than mine. So it's about building on the experience we've had, understanding that there are situations that require us to be smart, to be quick, to be collaborative, to listen and learn. And I think the strength that Siemens brings as a German organization is the due diligence that we do not take anything for granted. We check and we double check. And we do that transparently. We involve all stakeholders. We do not, in fact, if we're not sure of something, we say we're not sure. I think it's the foolhardy, overambitious approach that we've tried in the past that has maybe even caused us to fail each time. We do things in realistic steps, whether people like it or not. So we're not a crowd pleaser. We're there to solve a problem. We see ourselves as a trusted partner, but a technology provider at heart. And we're not here to supply the technology that will not get us to the next level, or to have Siemens' reputation or brand name destroyed because it committed to implementing a project that wouldn't deliver. So it's about saying, well, I told you I'm a Nigerian, I live in Nigeria. My job is, as the managing director of Siemens, to highlight and pinpoint these are the challenges we could face. And the government's role is to say, yes, there are challenges everywhere. There's security challenges, there are economic challenges, there are capacity challenges. Sometimes we don't even have the right skills here to get these things done. So by doing this, we know that we created, and I keep saying it, collaboration, trusted, those words keep coming, because if we don't have those things, what we have is a mix that, or a pie, or we cook a pie that doesn't work. But we've said, look, what is the worst case? What is the worst case? We've done risk analysis. We've looked at various scenarios, and we said, look, at the minimum, this is what we must do to transform the sector. We must train people. We must have the steady pool of candidates or employees who will be able to transform the sector, who have not importing know-how from other countries like other nations do, or other companies, but ensuring Nigerians are able to resolve their own or solve their own problems. So that's one end of it. But also saying, look, where do we start? Our own interest, honestly, if I'm honest, is we're always looking for the large power generation project. So we know that that portion of the pie is so attractive. But we can't do that without resolving the gaps from the consumer. So all the way from metering, resolving the gaps in distribution, transmission, generation. And we're not just jumping in and fixing those sites. We're also saying, where should we start? What should we do exactly on each site? How should we even design these solutions? How do we ensure that they're sustainable and they're not, the total cost of ownership is recovered? As Mr. Malo said, how do we ensure the return on investment is as early as possible? The payback periods are optimized and all the financials are in order. So we're taking at each step very well-informed decisions. We're assessing, we're testing, we're inspecting, we're asking. And on that basis was where we developed the Nigeria Electrification Roadmap last year. And that's still been optimized several times over. That is an outdated document. We keep on revising it and adapting it to the requirements of the DISCOs, TCN, the consumers. And so it's, for us, it's about understanding the problem at hand, taking the time and the responsibility to do what is required to make sure we know what the risks are and to know how to address those risks. And even where there are risks we can't address, knowing how to avoid them or how to eliminate them in essence, so we don't have to consider those risks. And that is the order of doing business anywhere in the world right now. Any company that tells you it's a multinational and is avoiding certain regions because they are in quotes high risk, I think is not a serious business. The way the world is going, it's not clear where next your next market is. And as I've said, relating to COVID. So that's the strength we bring, that's the value. And as was explained several times by my fellow panelists, our first stage is the pre-engineering, which enables us even intensify that due diligence and design systems that are rugged, best fit for Nigeria, will stand the test of time, and will generate the required benefits.
I have long questions, but I'm going to wait for the audience questions to come on. My next question is for Folake. There's some talk about sub-franchising in a couple of discos. My question is, given the loss reductions that will be achieved across the sector, post the Siemens intervention, would there still be any need for sub-franchising? Because the idea is that when the Siemens deal is implemented, the losses will be reduced, more effective. So would you still need to sub-franchise?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Very interesting. The option of franchising is obviously something that is on the table. And this is something even the regulator looking at. And the regulator recently issued a new regulation on distribution franchising, and we're still reviewing that in detail. However, as Ikeja Electric, our focus is on our homegrown strategic initiatives in reducing the ATC&C, which is aggregate technical, commercial, and collection losses, in line with our loss reduction targets. That remains our focus. So if franchising is going to help us achieve that target, of course, we're going to embrace it. We have really recorded very encouraging results, over the last 2 years in trying to drive down, this ATC&C loss. We started this year, for example, at 25%, and even despite the COVID situation, we're still trying to reduce ATC&C loss reduction. So our focus, like I said, is to achieve that. If franchise is going to help us achieve that, yes, we would embrace it. If not, we would definitely, work around what best works for the disco. And I think I speak largely on behalf of, all the other discos as well.
Excellent. I want to take one more question, then I'm going to go to the questions from the audience. Let me see. Back to you, Abba. I was wondering, given the novel structure of this deal, which body will be responsible for the governance and performance benchmarking for the PPI? Which body in Nigeria will take charge of it?
All right, thank you, Temi. Like I mentioned earlier, there's already an institutionalized governance framework, and this institutionalized governance framework for the project will still operate within the already institutionalized governance structure of the electricity market. So you will have the regulator as an independent arbiter who has the overall responsibility for regulation within the electricity market. So we'll play that regulatory work still also regulating this investment based on existing laws and regulation. The ministry, on the other hand, will continue to play a key role of ensuring that the whole governance structure, that is on this side, the governance structure for the PPI implementation and the governance structure of the entire electricity market, it's all functioning and working. And that was why, if you remember, when I articulated the minister's 5-point agenda, I mentioned that one of the key area of focus is ensuring that this governance structure is existing and it's functional. So we have that aspect of it. So the regulator will play its own role of regulation. The ministry will play its own role of ensuring that the regulation is there, and will also be responsible, also playing the role of ensuring the performance and benchmark. And remember also there's the SPV board that also is the PMO and the implementation partner are all accountable to. That has also complex a cocktail of diverse stakeholders in the board. Mentioned justice, science and technology, works and housing, power, finance are all there. BPE, sorry, Malo, BPE are also fully represented there. So this is there. You can't say that it's one single person, but every arm of the stakeholder will play its own responsible, will play its own role in management of the implementation. Thank you.
You guys have stirred up the honest nest. I have 64 questions coming in from Facebook everywhere. So I'm going to try, we have like about 22 minutes to take questions for the Q&A session. I'm going to take some questions now. I think this question is for you again, Abba. You're wearing the minister's shoes today, so enjoy the class. So it says, there are areas where the federal government of Nigeria has already secured multilateral institutional funding for. And the Siemens contract is also talking about the same areas. There is therefore need for synchronization and harmonization of the projects that have existing funding, existing project funding and project finance. So basically what they're saying is basically that how do you harmonize projects that already have funding with this new funding that is coming in so that you don't have to avoid duplication. So Abba, that's for you.
Terry, this is a very, very good question. And incidentally, the same question was asked, I was asked the same question when we had an engagement yesterday with the leadership of the National Assembly. And the answer to it is a very simple thing. As when we were designing this, the PPI intervention project, we have taken into cognizance this complementary work. And I mentioned when when discussing the minister's blueprint, I mentioned that infrastructure alignment is a key focus area. And under that, it's not only the PPI I mentioned. So we have the transmission rehabilitation expansion program that was also secured. Now, the good part of it is all those bilateral funding were secured specifically for a defined project. So ab initio, we know that this project is already funded. So in the designing the Siemens project has taken into cognizance this complementary project. And what we are doing is to ensure alignment in terms of completion within a particular period of time. Thank you.
I have another question here from James Farmer, and I think it's for Oiche. It says, Oiche made a very important point about affordable electricity. And I think this more than any other factor has been a deterrent to investment in the power sector. It says, how is the Siemens still going to handle affordability? So Oiche, that question is for you.
Thank you, Tokwe. Affordability is about paying for what you can afford to generate enough value for us. It's all about value. So if you're a hairdresser and you're buying, you're paying for electricity at a tariff that is higher than your, you're on a monthly basis, you're paying for your bill is higher than your income, then it's totally unaffordable. But if you have stable quality electricity. And as a hairdresser, you're investing in your business, you're seeing the returns because it's you're now attracting more clients. You're not having to buy the diesel yourself, maintain your generator, have a backup generator. And then you know what it does is it increases productivity, it increases attractive quality of service, competitiveness of the business. So I'm not going to jump in and give you the easy answer, which is yes, the government is going to charge very affordable. It's not about that. It's about creating value so you can generate enough returns for your business, or even if you're or as a consumer, even if you're a residential consumer, you know that I'm taking what I can afford. I am using the electricity I can afford, and it's also helping me because I can work and create money in whatever area I'm at. So the affordability is definitely inherent in this entire construct we've been talking about. It's about ensuring that we first of all reduce the losses. What we're doing, actually, we're in a very expensive sector. People are generating, they're all Gencos. Everyone is a Genco in Nigeria. Everyone owns a generator, buys diesel, maintains it, operates it. So if you look at the cost of the levelized cost of electricity for people, self-generation, it is about 5 times higher, or 2 to 3 times higher at the minimum, higher than grid-based electricity. So centralized generation is typically cheaper than decentralized generation, especially in a country like Nigeria where gas is available and affordable. So what we're trying to do is to ensure that that entire value chain works, because when there's a break in from generation to transmission to distribution, you create inefficiencies. And it's these inefficiencies that increase the cost of electricity to the end consumer. So for Folake, she's able to charge her customers much less if the transmission lines are efficient, if the losses are less, because the losses are also incorporated in your charges. If generation is done on time, it's she also is able to balance her tariffs against high end and low end and medium income consumers. So that's on the one part. But I also wanted to answer a few other questions. I've gone through the chat. I think people are at the point of being frustrated with all the lies they've been told. They'll say they're tired of hearing all these stories about projects upon projects. And I think the difference here is, let me say, everything we're doing is and the only reason you see me even coming out now to speak about a project, if I'm very honest, is that now we've reached a point where, we've gone past the point of no return, and we are confident we know what we're doing. We're confident we're talking to the right people. Everyone entering into this project, I have never seen this level of commitment as a Nigerian. I'm also cynical about where this country is headed, but for the first time, I'm also having hope. We are looking, for example, the meters. I've spoken about the smart metering system. Please, for those on the call, we are not supplying meters. We're working with local suppliers so that they will supply meters to a certain specification, which will align with NERC to create. So we're already working with NERC to say this is the specification of meters, and meters should be sourced locally as much as available. And that relies on that. Decision will be taken by the MAPs and the DISCOs. Where do you get your meters from? The preference is locally. I talk about the pipeline of resources or skilled hands we're bringing. There will be training for university students, also mapped along with the training for TCN, DISCOs, and NERC and other stakeholders. We'll try to create combined classes, or at least leverage the training facilities we'll be establishing for the investors. So for Gencos and DISCOs and whoever else, we'll make sure that universities as well have their own core trainings, not just focused on power systems, but also on industrial technologies, looking at Industry 4.0, things like artificial intelligence, etc. We're looking at also the off-grid solutions, as I said, tying on the whole, because the ministry has a very broad agenda. And on that basis, we're doing an energy mix study. So the power system study we're doing to say, how should we expand the transmission and distribution grid? We're also doing an energy mix study to say, not in all parts of the country you can have access to gas. So it's not everywhere you can build a power plant. Where can we do wind? Where does it make sense to do solar? And when you look at the financials of the project, does it make sense? And what makes sense in this? And looking at other alternative forms of generating electricity. So that's what the energy mix study will do. Will tell you, yes, you can build a pipeline and still connect to gas and still create value for the other thing about the loans as well is they're coming at low interest, very low single-digit loans. So these loans already inject very low cost of money into and that is what has inhibited further expansion of the sector. Let's be very clear. It's not that the discos are not capable, but everyone is highly leveraged, and even the banks now are facing tougher times. So it's not as easy to borrow money, and it's very expensive to borrow. And that's another massive benefit, the low interest loans that we backed, as Mr. Malo said, by the German ECA. And we're bringing in high-tech, modern technology, everything brand new. I think these loans are not to finance low-tech solutions. This technology we're bringing is mostly from Germany, and that is the reason the German government is backing the project in the first place. So this is a government-to-government collaboration, and it's backed on the fact that German technology will utilize the same technology we use in Germany and other developed countries in the world will be brought to Nigeria to enhance the grid, to enhance the power sector. There's so many other questions I see, but I think the biggest thing that, Abba said it so well, is that once Nigerians get behind this project, no one is going to, and how do we do that is by making it work. Nigerians are the most critical stakeholder. If it doesn't work, they will destroy the entire thing as themselves. But if it works, they'll go behind the project and support its development. I believe in that strongly.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. I don't know if you were telling me to stop.
I was trying to tell you to slow down. So for everyone online, there is a poll going on, and the poll is simply asking, do you think the PPI will be successful, yes or no? So even within this, we have 242 participants online. Please ensure you answer the poll, and we'll give you the answer to the poll afterwards. Oh, we already have the answer. Wow, your passion has paid off for...
No, AJ. I think the 20% voted before I spoke. That's the problem. Yeah.
Okay, but let's just take some questions for the 20%. Some people are quite skeptical. I have a Abons Adus here, and it says the phase one of the PPI involves the upgrade of the transmission and distribution network infrastructure to 7 gigawatts. And the target is 2021. It says, which is barely 18 months from now. Yes. Do you think it's feasible? So another disenfranchised Nigerian. So between Abba and Oyeche, so.
Abba, let me quickly say something, please, because when we decided on those dates, we had signed the implementation agreement with the government July 22nd in the presidency. So we had signed an implementation agreement and set out certain tentative dates. We still haven't kicked off phase one of the project. So what we can commit to is the timelines for execution are still relatively similar. But the date to start the project has shifted severally. So we didn't start as soon as we thought. At this point, we're even entering into the pre-engineering stage, which is a precursor for other quick win, high impact projects. And then phase one will kick off. So that's generally where there's a time shift between when do we start the project and when do we start to see and when the project ends. But Abba, please, maybe you want to add a few words to that as well.
Right, I can't say anything more than what you have already mentioned, Ogechi. Thank you. Yeah.
There's also a recurring question here for Siemens. So some people are saying that the attempt at fixing SCADA systems at the past has failed. What is going to be done differently this time? What is different about this attempt?
The major difference here with the SCADA system is that we are one of the top, I think, 2 or 3 companies for delivering supervisory control and data acquisition systems globally. At this point, TCN has a very clear idea of what they want. They've done extensive investigations. I think, first of all, we have also had the advantage of having delivered in 2 phases the majority of the SCADA infrastructure that exists in Nigeria today. Some of the lessons learned from that exercise is that we must have trained Nigerians to manage and maintain those systems. So manage them, that's operate, and maintain. That means extend the life cycle. Because the second reason for the second project was we trained Nigerians, and sometimes the wrong Nigerians are trained. Sorry to say that. I think in the past it was the habit that it's not necessarily those who work on the systems that train them, that necessarily operate them. But that's the difference we're bringing. We're actually doing training here and other parts of the world to make sure that those people who run those systems will be able to, will actually be the ones getting the know-how and the certification, international standards of certification, and they will also be the ones that will troubleshoot, that will specify, that will extend. And I think that's one of the major value adds. But regards to SCADA, it's not in part of the phase one. It still requires TCN to decide, where do we want to extend the SCADA to? What is the ambition behind that? And that has been part of our entire exercise, is relying on the DISCOs and TCN and to tell us this is exactly what we want to achieve, and us providing a solution that meets those requirements. And that process is yet to be kicked off.
Excellent. I think we're going to be adding some people to the system to ask questions in a minute. But before we go on, I want to voice another question from, I actually know this guy, Adek Bite Adeniji. He had some very complex questions before, but that one requires a PhD to answer, but I'll take this one. It says, the new tariff philosophy under consideration is interesting. That's incentive regulation. However, the ESPRA is specific around the philosophy and structure of the tariff order. Would you require a change in law before the new idea of the tariff can be implemented? In other words, is the tariff requirement for this to succeed different from that articulated in the ESPRA, or is it the same one? And would there be a need for a change of law? I'll pose this question to Abba and Malu, and then we'll get some support from Onyeche.
From Folake.
Okay.
Yes,
Go ahead.
So no, let me allow Manu to start. It's my book.
Okay. Actually, we do not require a change in law. We do not require a change in law.
Absolutely.
The service reflective tariff is just a nomenclature. Giving it a new name is still the same tariff regime, tariff mechanism. The very components, basic components that determine what goes into the tariff are still the same. There is no change in the mechanism for determining the tariff. The only thing that has been added, which the law had envisaged that NAC will have the power to do, was to bring in innovation through an order. The law empowers NAC to give out orders that will help in the smooth running of the power sector. And in this case, what they have decided to do is to tie the tariff to a service regime, so that if you are enjoying this level of service, you should be able to pay this tariff. I think there is no need for any change in law at all. It is a very dynamic system that has been introduced. And I think people should learn to support it and run with it. Thank you. Abba.
Yeah, Malo, spot on, absolutely spot on. The service-based reflect tariff is an innovation in terms of holding stakeholders more accountable to as regards to tariff increase. So if this increase is to be implemented, what exactly will the customers get in return? That is just as simple as that. So tying that increase with a predetermined, agreed based on deliverables or service improvements that stakeholders will deliver for the customers. And this goes up to holding the discourse, even the transmission company accountable for an improving service within that particular region. So thank you, Malo. You have said it all.
Okay. So I've just been reached by the organizers that we have a 15-minute extension, given the buzz that this has generated. So I'm going to keep going and taking more questions. I want to take another, so if you sent questions earlier on before the panelists started, and I'm skipping your questions, it's only because some of the comments by the panelists have already addressed some of the questions you asked. So I'm going to later questions. So somebody's asking, will we have the recording of this event? I think it will be made available later on.
Yeah.
Let me see. Question. There are 84 questions. There are 84 questions now.
Hi. Sorry to come in here. So I think we can allow some people have been raising their hands, so we can allow them to come up now, maybe 2 or 3 people. And yes, there will be to answer the last question, there will be the event is being recorded, and it will be on Facebook, it will be on YouTube. Okay, Professor Felix, we have Professor Felix. Sorry, you might want to go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you. This is Felix Dayo. I'm calling from Bowie, Maryland, in the US.
Okay, please, can you speak up, sir?
Okay. I said this is Felix Dayo. I'm calling from Bowie, Maryland, in US. Thank you for the information. You know, one thing that is very important in Nigeria is communication. People read meanings into things until they have good information. I won't there's even no time to tell you what we've heard about this Siemens deal, but this forum has given us more information that you can run with. I sent a question the other time, and that's to Engineer Shweton. This question that I'm going to ask you is very, very important to us who are active in the power sector, trying to see what we can do to make it better. On the act of a corporate entity. To me, Discos and the Jankos, they sound more like the former part of NEPA that depends on government. We are looking forward to a time when, as a privatized entity, people, and I'm happy to see young people now running the show in this organization. We need to evolve a private sector culture that handles things instead of whining and arguing with transmission or that you're at fault. It's an investment. Please, if you can address this, I'll be really very happy, because I expect that as you, the younger generation, are now running this thing, you will introduce all those ethics of corporate profession that is needed in that sector. Because without you, we cannot go forward in Nigeria. That's the first question. Second question quickly is this. There was a question that was sent to us on the use of inclusion of, I call it microgrid and mini grids in the architecture. And Mrs. Tifashe did mention that they are running a network model. Are you considering also the tweaking of the architecture of the nesting so that you can have mini grids also linked to the main grid? So as the main grid is green, you are also developing mini grid along the line to ensure not only better electricity, reduction in all these losses, especially the transmission and inject and the distribution voltage.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you. I think your questions have been noted. We'll just allow the panelists to answer immediately. Thank you very much. Over to you, moderator.
Yes. Who wants to attempt that question? I didn't quite get the meat of it, but I think, Ogmona, could you summarize the question? Because I think I missed a big part of the question. But I heard about the professionalism and allowing private sector.
Yes, that was the first one. The second one he asked was about decentralization, basically. Would it be a good idea to consider having off-grid systems incorporated, which is actually one of the questions we have put up in the ongoing poll right now. Should we have the deal or the initiative incorporate off-grid electrification so that we can reduce losses across the supply chain? So yeah.
I think it would be good to get Folake's opinion on this. Since she's the disco and she might stand to actually gain or lose if this gets into operation.
So I couldn't really hear his question, but the first one I got was asking his expectations with regards, the discos being more professional and acting like private companies. First of all, let me just explain the structure. So it's 60% private, and of course it's still 40% government owned. But the 60%, which is obviously the private part, is one that is running the business every day. And we're highly professional. We're not bureaucratic at all. But of course, it's still highly regulated, as I said. If you look at a lot of the things or the initiatives that the discos are coming up with, it's because of the private and professional background and drive that we have. That's why you see what you're seeing. So there's high corporate governance. You will see that we're highly ISO certified. We're not bureaucratic as it were. I mentioned I keep talking about this bilateral because it's something that we're very proud of. For example, in a that we've done, and the only reason why we were able to achieve that is because of our professionalism and our focus on being results driven, which is, if you look at how private companies are run, they're focused on results and being profitable. So I don't know if that kind of gives them some level of comfort, but the discos are definitely being run privately, but of course, highly regulated, and it's still the 40% government share. I don't know if that answers this question.
Yeah, the first one, yes, we did.
Because that's what
the poll actually more or less speaks to the second one about decentralization and allowing off-grid mix off-grid and on-grid.
Hello, are we there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Can I contribute to this off-grid, on-grid?
Yes, you can, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Currently, we're even trying, we're experimenting this particular dimension in Kaduna Disco. There is a particular company, Conexa, that is trying to see if we can have this model implemented, both the on-grid and the off-grid within a particular area to see how they operate. We'll use it as a proof of concept and maybe apply it across the value chain. So it is not something that is not doable. We want to do it correctly, and we have the correct people who can actually implement it, trying to see how we can do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe I just add a few words to that as well. So the eligible customer declaration that was issued several years ago enables the sector participants to either come in and to enhance generation and supply to end users or end consumers within the disco geography, and thereby creating a win-win solution for both the discos, consumers, and the third parties being involved. So I think that that sort of construct already exists today, and it's not anything that has to be reinvented. It's working. It's just that it's expensive for those investors, and so that model, maybe it's worth looking at. Actually, the answer for me is a good question. And to see how to build on what we're doing today to make it even a more affordable process, because it can add value for many. Sorry, Tope, I'm muted.
I'm going to ask my own last question.
Okay, so sorry, I just wanted to add to that. Hello, Tope. Tope, I'd like to add to that. Yeah, I'd like to add to that from a disco perspective. So even though we accept the off-grid power options or solutions, but if you look at it from all developed countries, nearly all developed countries in the world rely first on grid infrastructure. And for our power sector to scale and empower industrialization like we want it to, we need a solid grid network, which is the whole essence of the PPI and the PIP. So it's something to consider, but it cannot be the main strategy that will help us achieve the objective that the country needs. We spoke about the impact on the economy, the impact on growth. There's no way you can't depend on upgrade. It can just be a combination. I thought it was important I mentioned that.
Yeah, Falaki, I agree with you absolutely. We cannot put our base load on base loads cannot be on renewables. It can only be a support. So I was going to ask the last question to everybody. My own question, and I'm asking for Nigerians. And this question is: when do you think we are going to start seeing appreciable differences, the impact of this program in terms of time? When do you think we're going to start seeing something that will say, wow, something has started changing? Because from all the comments here, and I'm summarizing, Nigerians are tired of stories. So in concrete terms, this is not, I'm actually stumping you guys. I know you have not, we didn't plan for this. When can we start, I didn't say total change, but start seeing changes? Starting for you, Mr. Marlon.
Quite interesting. You know, we are at the pre-engineering stage now. And of course, there were moments, times that if we had moved very quickly, maybe we would have gone far now. But then the beauty of what has happened is that there has been a process of checking and cross-checking to make sure that whatever has been put in place is what will produce results. And like I told you at the opening, what we have structured is to get those things, those quick wins that will have the greatest impact within a short period of time. So when we commence the rollout, people will begin to see impact almost immediately, because it's going to take place across the nation. It's not going to be maybe starting with Lagos and then coming. No, it's going to be activities taking place across the nation, and we will see begin to see the impact almost immediately. The intention was that 7,000 megawatts will be the minimum to be taken to Nigerians. In essence, it means doubling the current level of power that people are getting, because currently they are getting like 3,500. And if you are talking of 7,000 megawatts, it's like doubling the power available. So what we plead with Nigerians is, 1, to be patient, 2, to support the program, and 3, to continue to pray that we succeed. Thank you.
Abba, you're next.
I think we would. I will answer this question from a very different perspective than what my brother Malu said. Reason maybe because I'm not an engineer, I'm an economist. For me, I think what is very important for Nigerians to understand is the fact, to me, that we have already started seeing results. On the basis that when you look at the electricity market, for example, from February 2015 to April 2020, the electricity market paid a whopping total sum of almost 255 billion for electricity capacity that cannot be evacuated or distributed. Now, if this market continue on that route, the whole electricity market will collapse, and there's no two way about it. Any electricity market will continue to exist based on this kind of arrangement. And main reason, critical reason why this whooping sum of money is being incurred by the market is as a result of this infrastructure misalignment. Now, and the famous saying that when you know a problem, it's like solving 50% of that problem. Now, to me, knowing that this electricity market has to address this problem now and now, it's also a great achievement. That is 1. 2, then apart from knowing the problem, designing a conceptual way to address the problem is another great achievement. coming up with the performance improvement plan. And politics aside, credit goes to Mr. President, because purely this is an initiative that was driven by Mr. President for the Nigerian, as a solution to the Nigerian electricity market. And the minister was mandated to ensure full implementation of this project. So coming up with even a solution is another achievement. Now, where we can now start to see some tangible results, I think Onyeche is best suited to give more insight into that. But for us, is by 2021, there will definitely be some quick wins achievements that Nigeria will start seeing out of this project. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, for Lucky and Onyeche, before you come on, Erabo is going to come on and ask a few more questions. This our presentation has become very hot. We have 96 questions, 221 participants. I hope my computer survives till tomorrow. So Erabo, can you come on, please, and ask your questions? Erabo, please. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Temitope. I think the Siemens deal is a fantastic deal. People like Abba know me from my work negotiating PPAs and GCAs for the past maybe 8 years. So we know that for discos, there's always been a complaint about power not being dropped by TCN where it's most viable for them. And we also know that TCN in the past, through the Fishner report, has identified areas where there is suppressed demand. So it's not even a function of displacing demand, or it's just, look, there's suppressed demand, we need to just get Nigerians the power. But my concern is that we will, like Mr. Jinamalo said, we will double and maybe triple, because he says the minimum, the first phase is the minimum. So we could quite, because of the suppressed demand and other activities being done by TCN already, we've hit 5.3 gigawatts yesterday, right? So we could easily double, if not triple, the next 3 years, the amount of energy going into distribution. And if the discos work the way the Ikeja disco has been really working with their premium power, with the optimization, you would find out that you would have all the feeder lines robust, and the energy is getting to Nigerians. My concern is that we spend all this time, all this really great work getting the electricity to the people. Is the PPI thinking about the productive use of energy? So you get this electricity to Nigerians. We had a recession in 2016. We're probably going to a recession now. And this funding and the investment is not free. At some point, it's got to be paid back, right? Some way or the other. But if we get the electricity to the Nigerian people and they're not equipped, or we're not creating a way to catalyze, encourage economic activities in the areas where this power generation and distribution is going to double and triple, we might have a problem. Because this is not even about tariffs, because like the Ikeja Disco MD said, people are self-generating at 5 times the cost of the green power. But it's just the productive use of electricity in such a way that if we double, triple our value in the NESI, that we also maybe in a geometric projection triple the amount of money that is flowing the other way, and that can only be done by ensuring that the commercial value, the productive use of electricity is looked at, is encouraged, and is enhanced in areas where today there's no electricity, but in 2 years' time, that electricity is going to be triple. So are we thinking about ways in which we can attract industries, investments, commercial activities, reducing regulation, improving the use of doing business, that sort of thing? I think the PPI needs to create visibility to the microeconomics beyond just the fiscal and high-level initiatives from in the distribution and transmission bottlenecks that we'll face. So my question is, what is PPI doing about productive use of electricity? Thank you.
I guess the question is to Malo and Aliyu. And the question is, what are we doing to improve the amount of productive electricity use in the system? It's not just having power. Power is supposed to lead to productivity and economic growth. So if we have more power, is there any system to ensure that the power is put to productive use?
And I would also like to contribute to that as well, Tope.
Okay.
Definitely. If you're making power available just for the fun of it, then it's of no use. Well, you know, studies have shown that for every megawatt of power that you are able to make available to the economy, GDP is impacted positively. Some have estimated it to be in the region of almost 1%. Some have estimated it to be even more than 1%. So definitely getting power to where it is needed most. For instance, why should our industries depend on generators? Part of the program is to make sure that those who require power get power and quality power, like Onyeche would say, quality power, so that they can engage in the kind of activity that will produce results. If it is industry, you should go to industry. If it is to commerce, you should go to commerce. And you can see the way this program was structured was bottom up, starting from the discourse. Where do you think we should intervene first? And which one should come later? So the prioritizing started with those who are actually there in the field to show us the very particular place or places that need power now, and will also increase the financial viability of these companies. So we are solving two problems at the same time: the market issues, the liquidity issues, as well as providing service to where it is needed most. This goes on to address the other question that somebody asked before, that TCN is known to take power to places where it is not needed. Well, to some extent, there is some truth in it. But the process of putting this program is to make sure that there is a recalibration to ensure power is moved to where it could be most productive as and when needed. However, without neglecting other places that will also need power, even if it is for social services. So power will be used for productive engagements, as you rightly observed. Thank you.
Okay. In the absence of any more questions, I'm going to let the panelists.
But me who had said I wanted to say something actually.
Okay, go on.
I think, Mr. Malu, thank you. You put it so well. And, you know, at the point during the development stage of this project, I was so concerned about developing an economic master plan so that once power was generated, we knew where we would have industrial parks or other sorts of commercial businesses that will consume that power and use it for productive use. I was very much concerned. I remember writing letters to the then Chief of Staff, may he rest in perfect peace, saying, please, we need to have a plan in place that defines very clearly how power will be consumed and how it will contribute to economic growth. You know, I will say this: Nigerians don't need plans upon plans. We already have the ERGP. We have other plans in place. We have fantastic plans. Our problem is not planning. Our problem is that people just want to get things done. People want a better livelihood. And as Manu has said very, very clearly, with electricity, electricity triggers so much more economic activity that people become independent. And now with the impact of COVID, we see how sensitive, how weak our economy is. And we need a stable core base. And that comes only through industry. And industry is only vitalized by power. And that's where, I sort of understood very clearly that the benefits, your question talk about, the benefits are there already. I have companies reaching out to say, how can I position my business? What values can I bring, either as a service-based firm or financing or bringing other or providing services into the system, into the power system. So companies are now more interested in investing in Nigeria. This project will raise investor confidence to really high levels. It will attract foreign direct investment. Because if I'm a manufacturer, Nigeria will always be a prime destination. My biggest concern would have been power. But with the promise of power being available, I start to plan my long-term capital expenditure. How do I meet those timelines and those targets to be able to access this stable, affordable electricity? The other value we're bringing is a proper management of the power within the discourse, as Falake said, operating excellently. We are always impressed with the quality of the people we meet within the discourse, but then you start to give them the required tools, instruments, software, know-how, technology to be able to improve even their performance. And that's a quick win. That's something that will come also in the pre-engineering phase. We'll be providing power simulation systems, software to do proper designing and mapping of the grid. So the benefits are enormous. We'll be training hundreds of engineers within the discourse to be able to use that software as well, to be able to do long-term planning and analysis, etc. So I would say immediately, and that benefit will trigger other investment into the country, and that will accrue over time.
Falake, you wanted to respond to? Did you want to respond?
Sorry, my internet. Yes, my internet was acting up. Well, I guess what I was going to say is and the truth is that it's in our interest to obviously support the industrial and the commercial businesses. A lot of them had to look for alternatives because they couldn't really depend on what was coming from the distribution companies. So we have a plan that obviously entails us expanding our industrial clusters. So now we have them in like 3 major areas. So those are no Lagos, well, Ogba, Ikorodu, Oshodi, Solo Axis. Those are the areas that you find those industrial, areas. But then we're looking to expand into the different 6 business units. I mean, with the bilateral we're doing now, I mean, I keep referring to it and that's a very good example to show the benefit of what we will get if this thing works. You're seeing a lot of companies, new companies, existing companies that were depending on solutions coming to us saying that they want to definitely under the bilateral scheme. So it's critical. Like I say, electricity is life. It's life, and I can't reiterate. The discos are very excited.
While we wait for her to come back online, Onyechi, I want to give you a chance to actually round up, give me your closing remarks, and also answer the question I asked earlier on: when will we start to see change? We like your English, but we want to see light. So, closing remarks and answer that question. That's the summary of all the 104 questions we have today. When we will see light? So, Onyechi, over to you.
Well, I failed to answer that question when I said it wasn't only about light is an enabler. So I know you like my English. I'm going to give you more because I said it already. I think it's about the benefits that accrue from having electricity, and that's already starting. And I think that's what Falake was saying. It's a shame she got interrupted. She's saying additional customers, even industrial customers, are knocking on their doors because they see the benefits will accrue. And so repeating that question answer, I think, is not necessary. But on the whole, what I will say in my closing statement is it is clear that we need to engage with the public to make them aware of the details of this program, to carry them along, because they are the biggest stakeholders and winners and beneficiaries. It's about, so that's something already being under the construct of our communication strategy for the project. That's being shared with the ministry as well and the BP to ensure that we're able to engage on a frequent basis with the public to ensure they are able to key into the program, not just as consumers, but also maybe investors, and to also make sure we don't make the same mistakes we did in the past. So the communication, and for that, I thank the Nigeria Electricity Hub for setting up this session. But more fora like this has to be done. We need the key stakeholders, maybe next time even NERC on board, because there's so many amazing things I think that the regulator is trying to implement as well that perfectly complements this program. Other international development agencies, the World Bank is doing a lot, and they're investing in the right things to complement the PPI as well. So on the whole, we're on the right track. It's not just Siemens. It is a program for Nigerians, for Nigerians. It is supported by the president, and it is, if we do what we set out to do, we will definitely achieve in the very short term massive benefits. Thank you.
Okay, before your closing remarks, I want to announce the results of 2 more polls that we had. And one of the questions is, should there be an act governing the sector given all these developments? And we polled 66% in favor of a new act and 34% in favor of the current act. The other poll question is, should the PPI incorporate decentralized power generation and supply? And that overwhelmingly polled 87% in favor of the decentralized incorporation into the PPI versus 13%. So with that, Folake, I'll let you give your closing remarks. Thank you, Ichi.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, Tope.
Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my apologies. I don't know why the internet has decided to disgrace and embarrass me today of all days. But before I close, I was trying to just reiterate that just as the customers, and I'm a customer, of course, just as the customers are frustrated, right? I'm going to talk from a DISCO perspective and from the investor's perspective. It's going to be 7 years in November, and they have invested, not just in acquisition cost, infrastructure investment, trying to ensure that you close this gap to provide the service. And we've not become profitable, not yet profitable. So it's in our interest, right, to ensure that this happens. So the PPI is definitely a welcome initiative, obviously, by all stakeholders. Siemens obviously has a track record of project delivery and successes like those that she mentioned during her sessions. For these projects to work and work on an enduring basis, we must fix the fundamental issues that threaten, of course, the sustenance of the industry, which is the whole value chain. We must tackle issues along the value chain, the gas chain, gas supply issues, unfavorable gas prices, the frequent midstream system collapses, as just all the issues that we spoke about, today. There must be a holistic, value chain reorientation, and that will enable a favorable and consistent policy. It's very, very, very critical. We must have proper stakeholder alignment and management, very key. Policy and regulatory and contractual transparency is very, very key. Enforcement, implementation of course, realistic performance and management targets, and most important, an effective sector governance. Our country can become where we can become one where we can drive economic growth and sustainable development, enabled simply by stable power supply. This can be achieved, but we must solve those root cause issues that I mentioned and some symptoms thereof. But I'm excited, and I know the discourse are excited. We would definitely collaborate with all the stakeholders to make this work, because we have no choice but to make it work, because we're already on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I share your enthusiasm for this project. With this, I bring this to a close today. I want to thank very especially the panelists, Malu, Abba, Folake, and Ichi. I feel like I've known you guys for years, just a few hours, and it's been intense, and we're all passionate about this. let's hope that this time around we deliver results. Funny enough, I actually, just a short anecdotal story, I actually came to BP in 2006. I was doing my master's in the US. And I said, this power problem, I will fix it in 3 weeks. That was 2006, we're still here. So I worked in BP for a few months, and I realized that there were no pussycats in the power sector, they're lions. So, but really, it's a very passionate issue for Nigerians and for Nigeria, and this can be a change. I'm glad to see the quality and caliber of people involved in this process. And I think this might be our best shot so far. And I also want to thank the audience. The quality of questions we got today were quite moderate. There was nobody abusing anybody's father and their mother. We can get really passionate about this. So that was also quite good. So with that, I'd like to hand over back to Nigerian Electricity Hub and also thank the organizers. Thank you very much. It was an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, panelists, for this session. It was really, really insightful. We had about 105 comments, questions, and then about 10 more people waiting to be brought up to this platform to make their contributions. But we're sorry because of time. We have to close this session. It's been about 2 hours already, so we have to go. But what we can do, I'll beg the panelists here that we should please send you these questions, and then maybe you can make some comments, additional comments through our platforms, maybe podcasts or whatever. We already have had Ms. Tifashe on one of the podcast sessions, and we will approach all of you, please. There are questions directed to everybody. We'll come and ask you for all these answers. So thank you again. If you're not subscribed to our emails, please do so that you can get subsequent communication on this event. We'll have it we have it live already on Facebook. So please feel free to go to Facebook. We'll put it on YouTube, and it'll be reachable accessible to everyone. So thank you again, panelists. Thank you very much for your very, very, very serious and interesting, enthusiastic participation to our attendees. This has been a pleasure, and I would like to, on behalf of Nigeria Electricity Hub, thank everyone one last time and say good night. You're dismissed. Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Engineer Tifashe, good night.
Uncle, you're laughing at me. Why?
Engineer.
Situation now.
Bye, Falake.
Okay. Good night. Good night.
Good night.